You don't fail at the start. You fail 6 inches from the finish line. Think about the last time this happened, not years ago. Recently, you had momentum. The habit was actually sticking. The goal felt real. You could sense it getting close. And then, quietly, almost invisibly, no dramatic breakdown, no external disaster, just reasons. Reasons that felt logical, responsible, even. And you listen to them. Here's what that actually is. Psychologists call it the approach-avoidance gradient. Kurt Lewin mapped it in the 1930s, and it hasn't been disproved since. The closer you get to a goal, the faster your avoidance drive grows. Not slower, faster. The threat feels bigger the closer you are, not because the goal got harder, because your nervous system cannot tell the difference between I might get hurt and I might actually become someone different. Same signal, same response. So what do most guys do with that? 2 options. One, push harder, white knuckle it, call it discipline. The other, reframe the whole thing. Timing isn't right, I need to prepare more. Maybe this just isn't for me. Both of those feel like decisions. Neither of them is. The real damage isn't the failed attempt. It's that you never see the pattern. You blame the circumstances. Wrong timing. Bad luck. So you restart, new goal, same invisible wall, same quiet retreat at the same distance from the win. And that loop doesn't stop until someone shows you what you're actually dealing with. The Stoics had a name for this. Not weakness, not fear. A trained survival instinct. One that was useful once and never got updated. And the philosophers who actually dismantled it didn't do it through willpower. They did it through understanding. You can't fight a mechanism you can't see. That's what this video is, 5 minutes. The exact pattern your mind runs right before a breakthrough, and the specific way to interrupt it. Once you can name it, it doesn't get to run quietly anymore. The pattern has 3 stages. And once you see them clearly, you'll recognize the sequence every time, not just in the past, but in real time. While it's happening. The first stage is what I'll call the acceleration trap. Everything is working. The reps are happening. The project is moving. There's a specific feeling that comes with sustained momentum, not quite excitement, more like relief. Like you finally found your footing after a long time of searching for it. That feeling is real, but it is also a trigger, because your brain reads acceleration as exposure. The faster you move towards something that changes your identity, the louder the internal alarm gets. And it doesn't get loud in obvious ways. It gets loud in subtle ones. You start noticing what could go wrong. Small doubts that didn't exist last week suddenly feel important. You start researching instead of doing, reviewing the plan, checking your foundations again, making sure everything is solid. These feel like avoidance. They feel responsible. They feel like the smart move. That's the trap. Caution and retreat wear the exact same face. The second stage is the sabotage dress rehearsal. This is where most men actually lose. Not because they quit outright, but because they introduce just enough friction to bleed the momentum dry. A skip day that becomes 3. An avoided conversation that quietly poisons a project from the inside. A decision delayed long enough that the window closes on its own, so you never had to be the one who closed it. You're not stopping, you're just not going. The forward motion dies, but you can still tell yourself you're in it, still planning, still thinking about it. This is the most dangerous stage because it has no clean moment of failure, no single bad decision to point to, no event to be angry at. The thread just goes cold. The third stage is the rewrite. This is where the internal story changes. I gave it a real shot. The timing wasn't right for that season of my life. I learned what I needed to learn from that chapter. All of those things might even be partially true, but they function as exit ramps. They let the pattern reset without ever being detected. Day. 6 months later, you're back at stage 1 with a different goal and the exact same nervous system running the exact same sequence. And it feels new every time. That's how well the rewrite works. Here's the part most self-help content skips over entirely. This is not a character flaw. It is not a discipline problem. Most men attack this with more effort, more accountability, more pressure, more willpower, more motivation content. That doesn't work. You cannot outmuscle a survival mechanism. The mechanism is faster than your willpower. It was built to be. Effort pointed at the wrong thing doesn't accumulate. It just wears you down. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about pushing harder. He wrote obsessively about the discipline of perception, the ability to see clearly what a thing actually is, stripped of what your fear turns it into. Epictetus didn't tell his students to fight their instincts. He told them to name them first. Name it, watch it, separate it from your identity. The mechanism isn't you. It is a pattern running through you. That distinction sounds philosophical until you actually apply it. And then it becomes the most practical thing you've ever understood about yourself. Because here's what changes when you make that separation real. You stop taking the alarm personally. You stop treating the pull to retreat as evidence that you aren't ready, or that the goal is wrong, or that something is broken in you. You start reading it as information. Proximity data. The alarm gets louder the closer you are, which means when it gets loud, you're close. So here's the actual intervention. Not a framework, not a 30-day habit stack. 3 questions you ask yourself at the exact moment you feel the pull to slow down. First, am I slowing down because something is genuinely wrong, or because something is about to change? Those 2 states feel identical from the inside. They produce the same physical sensation, the same hesitation, the same mental noise. They are not the same thing. One is information about the path. The other is information about how close you are to the end of it. Second, what is the smallest action I can take right now that keeps the thread alive? Not the big move, not the full sprint, the smallest one. Because the goal in that moment is not to overpower the resistance. The goal is to maintain contact with the direction. A thread kept alive is recoverable. A thread gone cold is a restart. Third, if I stop here, what story will I tell myself about why? And is that story actually true? Most of the time it isn't. It's a construction assembled quickly from available material to make the exit feel reasonable. And you already know the difference between an honest assessment and a convenient one. You've always known. The question forces you to look at it directly, rather than letting it pass unchecked. 3 questions. No transformation required. Just pattern recognition applied at the right moment, consistently enough to interrupt the loop before stage 3 rewrites the record. Most men never break through the approach-avoidance wall, not because they lack ability, but because they never learn to read the signal correctly. You have been treating a navigation system like a verdict. It was never telling you to stop, that you were close. The breakthrough and the retreat live at the same address. The only difference is what you decide to do in the 5 seconds after you feel the pull. You have felt it before. You are going to feel it again. Now you know what it is.